All right, hello, people. We are back here for episode 4 recap, and it's going to be a lot of me not talking tonight and just sitting here and letting me listen to what everybody else has to say, both the people who we have here and the people in the comments. But I just want to, on the top, thank you guys again for watching and commenting. There's a lot of feedback so far this week as my phone keeps blowing up, and I think there should be some fun stuff coming in the future. But we will talk about all of that. I have a really exciting panel of 4 people here. As far as I know, only 4 people this time, not 6, from what I've been told. But we'll have to see what happens. But these are 4 people that I know very well and have gotten to know over the last year, who are, I would say, Survivor Maryland, like in between casual and super fans. Like, they're not the craziest, which is fine, but they know their stuff, and I think they're very prepared. And I have not heard a single take from them yet, so I'm excited to hear. And let's just go ahead and introduce them for all of you if you don't know who they are. So starting from my right, we have the first of our 2 Matts, Matt Gagan. Matty, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here talking about my favorite show, Survivor Maryland. Thank you so much for inviting me onto this roundtable.
Yeah, throwback to when I spent like 5 months trying to get you to watch Survivor Maryland and you refused.
Well, it didn't sound like something I really needed to watch right away, but I was wrong, because once I started, I ended up finishing it all in 3 weeks. So
the true American story of the Survivor Maryland watching. That's how it goes for most people, I think. So
yeah, sounds about right.
You're fine. Next up, we have Matt Ligori. Did I say that right?
Yeah, you said it right. I'm sure you still can't type it right, but it's okay. What's up? I'm very happy to be here as well. Glad it's none of our birthdays, so that you can't go out of your way to ruin one of those for us.
Yeah, well, Matt Ligori happens to be the only person who is so famous that he can't even have me on his power rankings. So excited to have him on the show here.
Hey, you don't need power rankings when you're doing what you're doing tomorrow, which I don't know, is that still top secret?
I don't even know what that means, but okay.
Tomorrow. What are you doing tomorrow?
Well, assuming that it materializes, but it will say top secret. But top secret. I will be on. I was like, what? I'll be on a show tomorrow.
Whoa.
I'm gonna be on the CBS like Good Morning America.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, crazy. It's all happening. No, but so thank you for coming on, Ligori. You can find him on a lot of Big Brother coverage and a lot of RHAP stuff if you guys don't already know. Then we got the most quiet. I don't know if I really should have had him on this show, but I thought maybe he could come up with some insights. We have Charles Kurtz. Charles, did I say that right? I don't even know anymore with last names.
Yeah, that's fine.
Charles, how are you?
Good. I'm excited to be here. Let's keep this interesting. I think people are excited and nervous to see me here, but I'm excited to talk about the episode. I think there's a lot of great gameplay, a lot of not so great gameplay, and a lot of things to talk about, including that preview for next episode. I think we're gonna have to get into that a little bit because there's a lot to talk about there too. But I'm excited to hang out with you guys as always and to really get into this.
I don't know what preview you're talking about. I'm not sure. I thought we had other stuff. Yeah. And last but not least, we have Brian Scally. Scally, how are you doing?
Yeah, Brian. I'm good. I will say that these last 4 episodes are the first time I've actually looked forward to a Monday coming every week. It's definitely one of the highlights of my week, going through Survivor Maryland. Discovered it a while back at this point through whatever buzz on Twitter I had heard, and then went back through and studied up as some of the people that are here tonight also were watching, and now I'm fully in on the All-Star season.
Yeah, Scally is the OG of this crew in terms of Survivor Maryland. There's no doubt about that.
He's a true fan.
Yeah, this is why Scally's the best.
Although, have you ever watched a whole season in one day?
Well, I'll try all 3.
I don't know if that's physically possible.
Yeah, I don't think there's enough time in the day for
that. All right, well, let's go into also. Hi, Lita in the chat. Lita, you should be on the show.
Yeah, why isn't Lita on the roundtable?
Survivor Maryland superfan Lita Broman.
That's right, very, very well. It is known. So before we get into the episode, real quick, I just want to say a couple things. One, like I said, thank you for all your feedback, comments, and likes and shares. I say it every week, but I will say again, it really does mean a lot, and it's helped make it really fun, especially for moments like this right now. And I think we're going to have a lot of those water cooler moments, Reddit forum moments. I don't know, what do you call them these days? Talking about things later in the season. But the other thing I wanted to say was, if you want to be part of one of these recaps at some point, I haven't, figured out the whole season's worth. They've been fun to do. I'm going to try to keep them going as much as I can. But if you want to be part of those, if you think you're someone who has opinions, is able to articulate them, wants to talk about Survive Maryland, then feel free to message me. I can't guarantee you're going to be on. I have to figure everything out, but I would love to hear from you guys if you're sitting there lurking and thinking that it could be you. So
let's be honest. I think all of our friendships with you is just a long con to get on this episode, Austin.
I'm confident that's what it was, but it's okay. It's really okay. But yeah, so I just want to put that out there. Feel free to message me personally if you want to do that. Otherwise, let's get into this week. And I think there's a lot of
just scroll past this comment. Austin shirtless, please, from Luke in the chat.
I'm pretty sure that's the same guy from last night.
If the people want it.
Yeah, I thought I was on the broadcast for a second because I was taking off my sweatshirt and I was just like, this just totally came off. But no, not this week. I think maybe I'll make a bet at some point in the season if I can get to some amount of views. But I think that's a little bit whoring myself out. I'm not willing to do that.
Yeah,
all right, let's move on. I got thrown off. I was ready to go. Yeah. Okay. Look, it's hard to host a show when you know all the answers and you have to keep things going in your head. Anyway, there's a lot to talk about this week. We had 2 tribal councils. We had not the craziest of twists, but something that I think put a lot of stuff into the game in terms of having this one world format and this partner twist and all that stuff. So we have all that to talk about. Plus we have the preview. So I'm going to let you guys start off the conversation where you want to go. And let's just start off with, in the words of Kellen, go with your gut. First initial gut reactions to the episode. Scally, we'll start with you.
I mean, I don't think you can bury the lead. I think everyone's talking about the preview, and I really think you set yourself up where if Feluke is not back next week, I'm going to be very upset. I don't know if we'll survive our friendship, but I mean, yeah, the preview got, I think, a lot of people really hyped. The episode was really, really good, and then immediately I forgot what happened as I was watching the preview because I was that excited. But, I was good episode. I liked all the twist, and wasn't too upset at either outcome so far.
I mean, my first thought was that, all right, Austin lied about not having winners back. Terry is finally going to come back to Survivor Maryland.
That was
my first thought. And then I was like, wait, he probably wouldn't have lied about the no winners thing. So I was like, I guess it might be Feluke because, I guess maybe a few people want that. Maybe.
Well, I'm fully prepared to be disappointed because, like Scally was saying, the only way that this will be able to survive the hype is that if it is Feluke that comes back, and I know that it's not going to happen because I know that Austin would not allow me to be this happy.
My first thought was to think back on the millions of conversations that all of us have had with Austin about how is Feluke not here, blah, 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 and all of the stories that he's made up along the way about how she was busy. And I'm like, no, this guy has had this plan the entire time. He had it in his head before the season. He was going to keep her out of the cast. It was all an elaborate plan. And I can't wait to hear the story about it when it actually happens.
That means that Austin lied to all of us, which I'm not prepared to live in.
You guys might. I mean, yeah. If you think that's true, you might as well hang up. I'm the liar.
Austin would not lie to me. I specifically asked him if Feluke would be back. And he specifically told me no.
I think we buried the lead here. I mean, the person coming back, it has to be Alan. I don't know what you guys are talking about, but Feluke is fun and all, but Alan is the real reason I'm here.
The only 3-time Survivor Maryland.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for. No, but I think the real lead here is Jordan Trubel's gameplay. It's really fantastic, and I think we need to get into detail with that. It's great to watch. It's Trubel's world. We're all just living in it right now.
Probably good to keep talking about Feluke for the next hour.
Yeah, you really brushed past this Feluke conversation.
So I want to hear this. Obviously, I'm not saying anything. Take your best theory. If it's Akram's razor, or Occam's razor, whatever it is. Take your first theory that you think is most likely, or whatever it's going to be, and roll with that. What do you think we're going to see next week, and how is that going to affect the game going forward?
Does anyone not think it's Feluke?
I don't.
I don't know.
I don't just like close out of this tab right now because you're lying to us, and we don't want you. We don't need that kind of negativity around here.
The pessimist in me, like, really is not getting behind it because I just can't let myself be that disappointed in a week of thinking of it. So, like, part of me is like, and with the number of people that are out, if it was like someone's coming back into the game, there was like a challenge, whatever it was, like, you know, Alex Pascal or Siona coming back in is not the worst thing I could think of.
No, but I would like that too.
But. Yeah, I would be very happy about it. But yes, Feluke is my number one.
Yeah, and if it's not her, like, who else would warrant such a big, like, preview? Like, why would Austin bring someone into the game if it wasn't going to be someone as hyped as Feluke?
Right, and I mean, I know for this panel in particular, Matt was probably watching the episode, like, on the edge of his seat, hoping that Victoria was about.
Yes, I was about to say that.
But you have to be happy now that she's still in the game, because if Feluke comes into the game,
she'll vote her out.
You can't take the risk that Victoria wouldn't have been able to play Survivor again together.
That's true. That's true. I was very upset that that Victoria wasn't gone.
As the person who's probably lowest on Feluke here, I can be reasonable and say I would be happy to see her, but I don't really expect it's going to be her. I just think the reasons that you've told us and on the preseason podcasts about why she's not here just seem extremely concrete to me. And I also think that you don't really want to taint the potential winner of the season like that. I think that it's going to be a fake out, in that there's going to be some person coming in for maybe one challenge, or to choose the new tribes, or to do something oriented with the new game mechanic, but not actually play the game. Because I think that you personally don't want the asterisk by your season. If that person were to come in and win, a lot of people would be saying, well, what would have happened if they were there for the first 4 votes?
Be the best. You got to beat the best.
It's true. No one ever said this was going to be a twist-free season. You got to be prepared for anything.
Charles is setting Austin up for failure, because if this is about Feluke, he's like, well, this is why you shouldn't have done that. It's probably the biggest reveal.
That's going to be my take, obviously, if that's the case.
It's like, I mean, well, first of all, if it's not Feluke, this is the most Feluke will probably be discussed in the entire season. So I'm going to keep rolling with that theory, because otherwise we're not getting enough Feluke content in general, going forward. But
that's very true.
Well, all I'm going to say, I think, for tonight is that, my philosophy going into the season was that my philosophy with twists in general is that I want to give people twists that are going to open up the game, give people options, allow them to play. And I mean, I think you see that with the twists that we've had in the season so far. So I'm not looking to make it, a ridiculous, unfair season or whatever. But, something I do want to say near the top is that this was a fun episode for me. I enjoyed it a lot going through it and watching it again. But, this season, I think you can start to feel, and as we move into the rest of the episode and then the actual content from it, I think that you can start to feel the game open up a little bit. We had these 2 majorities on both sides. Yes, they voted together, but I think you can start to feel where things are going to open up going forward. And so let's talk into each of these tribes. There's all these cross-tribe relationships too. I think let's just start by focusing on the first tribal we saw, what happened with the girls' tribe, and that'll, I think, be an intro to talking. So obviously we saw or I guess first you guys want to talk about your thoughts on the challenge and the twist itself in general, just to have both tribes go to tribal, have that Paris challenge. Any thoughts on that?
Well, my first thought about the editing style is what I wanted to bring up. How you had like the entire girls tribal, and then we went and like saw everything before the guys tribal and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, CBS really messed that up by not giving us like 20 minutes of the Seabass crew going talking at camp. It was like this episode should have come out before that one, so they could have taken some pointers.
That's true. Yeah, I like the way you did that.
Well, I mean, I was going to say that I didn't know if people were going to be like, hey, how did you decide which tribal went first? Because obviously we saw that the tribe that went first had an impact on the second tribal.
Yeah, how did you decide?
It was honestly just scheduling. Like, I didn't want to do a way to make one tribe go first, because scheduling is such a pain. So the girls happened to be ready to schedule first.
Everyone. I saw Brandon couldn't get out of there fast enough.
Listen, it was Brandon's birthday. He had places to be.
It was a lot of people's birthdays.
Yeah. I know. Everyone had a birthday this episode.
He was literally like turned, his whole body was turned, like he was like half off the bench, and like as Austin's reading the votes, and first of all, I love when Austin reads votes and he like has to tell them they're voted out, and he has like this really like uncomfortable smile / like that look on his face where like he's, I don't know, like he has to say it, but like he still doesn't. I don't know, it's funny. But yeah, Brandon was ready to like run off. Like if he wasn't the one voted out, he wouldn't have stayed for more than 5 more seconds.
No.
But then he had to go give his final words. So that
I think he really just wanted to flip a table.
Yeah, what the hell? Full heel turn.
I like the through line of everyone's birthdays being ruined by Survivor Maryland.
Yeah, it was.
Sabrina gets stood up on her birthday. Holly gets sitting out of the immunity challenge on her birthday. He gets voted out on his birthday. I'm just never going to be in Maryland for a birthday. Is all I know for the future.
Yeah.
Well, even we had the setup last week with Sabrina at the birthday of Tribal. I mean, it's just what a storyline for the season.
And then they, what are those? I mean, are you allowed to like talk about? Is it too behind the scenes about those torches? Are they like? I guess they can't be real fire, but the putting them on their heads. Like,
the candles, those aren't real. No.
I mean, you were literally tossing them around.
So.
Yeah, that's too behind the scenes. We can't talk about that.
I'm sitting there. I'm like, I love to balance things on my head as much as the next guy, but like, I'm not putting a real fire on my head.
Well, you just haven't tried to live life yet.
Guess not. Sorry, I didn't mean to get so off course, but
it's the perfect amount of off course, I think.
Yeah, the question everybody in the chat was dying to know, I think. So we were talking about the twist of the chat. I don't even know where we got on.
Yeah, so I can give my thoughts on that a little bit. So I think it worked out game mechanics wise because, like as you said, we've seen these two majorities. I think these votes have been really straightforward. But I think what makes Survivor Maryland so interesting and so great is the intertribe dynamics, as you talked about. And I think we see the situation that's ready to explode when all these different things are happening. So getting to that point faster, I think, is a benefit to the game in general. When you have these 5 guys who are all very good players, I might add, and it's completely in their best interest to work together, not only on this initial tribe, but just in the future, because they are the biggest targets, and that's the only way to protect themselves. If you're sitting there with Evan, you want Chris LeCompte in the game as long as possible because it's protecting him at future tribe swap or future down the line in the game. So I think that having 2 tribals this week really is the perfect time for it before the game is set to explode next week.
Sounds like we're touching a lot on the guys tribal, so we can just start with that one. That's fine with me. So we saw Brandon get out, flip the table, and everything. Charles is saying that he thinks it makes sense for the 5 to all sit together. Do the rest of you think that it made sense for all 5 of those? And Alex G ended up voting with them too. But do you think it made sense for everybody who did make that vote to do that?
Well, yeah. I like Charles was saying, like all the threats kind of need to stick together at this point. Otherwise, they're all gonna end up going down. And Alex G made the right choice because I think he's in a good spot now. Like he's the only one out of the 3 on the bottom that didn't just like completely self-implode this week. Like I think he's got a good thing going with Trubel now, and I think that the 2 of them, like if Trubel really does want to work with him going forward, the 2 of them have something that he can work with now, especially now that Chris Thomas is still a much bigger target out of the people on the bottom. So I think Alex played it well. I think there's really no reason to shake things up if you're the alliance in power right now. It just wouldn't make sense. So I think everyone pretty much played it right that voted Brandon.
I think specifically also, I think Brandon is a great target for them as well. Because Brandon does, like, I forget who said it. I think it was Eric said that, or somebody said that, Brandon has a really good social game and Chris Thomas doesn't. And Brandon's been making alliances with the girl side. And everyone knows, there's not going to stay boys and girls forever. So taking Brandon out when he could potentially get something together with those season 4 girls and whoever else that he's been working with and Sabrina is tight with and other people that are going to be power players in the game coming up, then I really think that he's the right move over Chris Thomas, who really has nothing going. We've seen how he tries to finesse the game, and it's just it's really there's no detail to his game. It's all just I got to do what's best for me and doesn't really understand how to work in other people's best interests. So I think that keeping him in the game long term is also a great move for them as well.
But
I feel like finesse was a tough word in there. Sorry.
Thank God they did keep Chris Thomas still in the game because he is fantastic to watch.
Oh, he's amazing TV.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes these the little moves are better than taking the big swings just because you can right now. Chris Thomas was available, but when are you going to get Brandon out if you don't get him out now? I feel like the entire season they've not really had a great idea of where his head was at. It seemed like he wasn't like loving being in this tribe of all the guys in the first place. Like he did want to get connected back with some of the girls. So, take him out now before he gets a chance to reconnect with any of them, and then, be used as a tool against them. So yeah, I think it was probably the best move they could have made.
What about from Trubel's perspective? What do you guys think about that? I mean, Trubel is the one here who really has the options. Because if Trubel wants to make the move, I think he can gather people to come with him.
I feel like Trubel can do no wrong right now.
Trubel can do anything he wants to do.
But let's talk about his game moving long term, moving forward. Right?
Here, considering that Chris Thomas basically makes it impossible to gather that side in numbers. He's never going. Best case scenario would be 4-on-4, and because Chris Thomas has been so outspoken against both Evan and Chris Lecomte behind the scenes a little more so, but you're never going to get either one of those pairs to work with Chris Thomas. So he automatically solidified them as a 4, and they're never going to turn on each other at that point.
I think it's a good point, but I was thinking more down the line.
Well, I feel like you have a lot of thoughts on Trubel, so I'm curious.
No, I don't. I'm just curious what you guys are too. Because I mean, I think everyone obviously agrees that he's playing a great game right now. But I think I think everyone's acknowledging that. And I think that's where he's in a little bit of a dangerous position. I don't think he's going home anytime soon, but I think once you get down to the final 8 or 7 or whatever at point of the game, if everyone agrees that Trubel's playing the best game, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. And I think that's the position he's put himself in by making these connections with everybody, which I think is obviously great survivor strategy. But there's 2 risks there. There's risk of people being pissed at you for voting you out. And there's a risk of everyone assuming that you're the best player in the game and voting you out down the line. And I think he's getting close to the point where that's going to become a major danger for him.
I don't really see that same point, first because we're so early on any Survivor season, but I also think the game mechanics of Survivor Maryland are different because it is an open campus. You're not seeing that person running around the beach talking with everyone. It's not as obvious. I mean, my favorite, I wrote down like a quote that Trubel said this episode where he's talking to Evan and he's saying, look, for me, I would want to vote out Chris Thomas, but it's not my name that's being thrown out there. I want to do what you want to do. And he fully put the earnest on Evan to make the decision, and he made it feel like it was his choice. He was going to go along with whatever he was going to do, and he wasn't the power player there.
I completely agree. And I think, I don't know if we can talk about secret scenes from last week, but the way Trubel came up with the strategy for the challenge, I thought just kind of highlighted what level he's thinking on. And if you guys didn't see it, he basically told all the guys to memorize the back 3 whatever the items they were, because he knew that the girls would most likely go for the first 3. So that if you got the back 3, you could just look at what the girls did in the first 3, stop it right away, and basically win automatically, which I just thought was brilliant strategy. And I think it shows a little bit of the level that Trubel's thinking on right now.
No, yeah, that was brilliant. Trubel's brilliant. He says all the right things, both to people in his tribe and in the confessionals. I had no idea who Trubel was going into the season because I didn't watch.
You didn't watch the first season?
I did not watch the first season. I wanted to.
And you call yourself a Survivor Maryland super fan.
Those words have never been said by me. But, I mean, going from not knowing who he was to, obviously having him last in my preseason power rankings because I didn't know who he was. He's completely won me over in the span of 4 episodes, even less than that. I think he probably was like in my top 5 going into tonight's episode. And I'm like rooting for him now over, a lot of my favorites that I had going in preseason. I don't know. I don't know who you thought I was going to say, but I'm not going.
Victoria.
There's a couple people that I'll never root for anyone over them. But yeah, Trubel was able to win me over easily. It seems like I don't think he has to worry about becoming that much of a threat down the line. Like, it's still very early in the game, and it's clear that he knows the game and has a grasp on the game. So I'm really not worried about Trubel going forward.
Yeah, it's a strong field of guys. I think a lot of them have a good idea of what their plans are, what they're trying to do. Trubel does seem like he's at the top of it, but I kind of loved the opposite of him in this episode, like the person who was playing like the complete opposite, like he was doing the best, and then we got Chris Thomas on the other side, changing people's names in
that was so good. It was so good.
Like, again, real Survivor dropping the ball here by not allowing them to have like cell phones and pull off things like this, because if they I mean, this was like almost like a shade of like Survivor heroes versus villains with the note. I was like, this is the first time we've seen like written communication used as a means of strategy in a while.
Yeah, I love the move by Chris Thomas to do that, and then I love how easily King saw through it, just like right away. It was great on both ends.
I mean, it makes sense because he was like, yeah, Micah doesn't call me that, and he wouldn't ever call me that. So, I mean, good on him for recognizing that, like, Micah would never call me that, so this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, like
it's Chris Thomas, so.
Yeah, Chris Thomas had, like, a good idea, I think, in theory, but he just didn't really execute.
Poor execution. Yeah, you got to put some thought into that.
Yeah.
I thought that the conversation before the challenge that Trubel and Chris Thomas had was one of kind of like the defining themes of the episode of like, what do you do when you're on the bottom? Do you kind of placate and take, a route that we saw some people take, or do you take the try to blow things up and make a move route? Do you guys see some merit in the Chris Thomas approach at all, or not at all, or was it more an execution problem?
I mean, I think you can see merit in what he's thinking, right? He knows that this is an all-star season and people are here to play. And that they're gonna. I think we're all hoping and assuming. I think just from how hard people are playing, that they're going to reward gameplay at the end of the season. So I think in his mind, he needs to make moves and not just sit there and get to the end because people don't want to vote for him. Obviously, people assume that no one's going to vote for him. But obviously there was several problems with the execution. I think he underrated how close King and Lecomte are. He underrated Trubel's, where Trubel's real interests are, which is to Trubel, and it makes sense for Trubel to stay with that other alliance and not kind of, he doesn't really have any grasp on what other people are thinking about him and the game right now. So it's kind of hard to make that move with those intentions, really.
Well, yeah, I think at this point in the game, there's not a lot of merit to trying to switch up the game so drastically like that. Like I said, it didn't really make sense for the Power Alliance to turn on themselves right now. Chris Thomas is not alone in the bottom. He still has other people. He should just be trying to survive this vote, survive the next vote, get to a swap, get to a merge or whatever. Who knows what twist is coming up? And instead, he's like painting a bigger and bigger target on his back, whereas Alex is playing it right. Just make sure the target's not you. Try to make a friend in the majority alliance, and that should be able to get you to a swap where you'll have more options going forward.
My question for Austin is, what was your thought, I guess, when you saw that there was a player trying to use like fake text messages as a strategy? Like, do you ever like have the idea like, wait, I might need to intervene here and not let someone's game blow up from something like this? Or like, is it just like, all right, well, if he's going to go for it, let it happen?
Well, I think that, I obviously am open to people using the game how they want and exploiting the real life things that they have. I've made rules on things like you obviously can't show anybody a video of a conversation. That was a really strict rule. I don't think anybody ever broke it. That would be a clear violation of just like the nature of what we're doing. But everybody's always known, and pretty much every season, whether it aired or not, there's been a thing where somebody put something in a text message, it got revealed, it didn't go well. Everybody knew by All Stars, texting is not the way to go. Like, you can never trust anything that's in text, whether it's someone showing it to you or you texting somebody else. I think that was just very well. That's why you see people meeting up so much, is because they know, A, you have to build a relationship, obviously, and B, if you text it, who knows who could find out. So that wasn't the kind of thing I was worried about, because I think everybody had the idea of like, take everything you see with a grain of salt when it's electronic. And obviously we saw that they figured it out really easily.
And I think compare this to, the queen, the legend, Feluke stealing the idol, the necklace, from randomly sitting in someone's room. If that's allowed, I think you're more than allowed to send a text to somebody or fake a text to somebody and try to make
and that wasn't an idol. So she can do whatever. She can steal whatever she wants.
Right, exactly.
But I also like things that are kind of similar. Is I never let people use the logo if they were going to make a fake clue, or use I didn't want people to be able to do things that were just totally non-falsifiable. But things like text messages, everybody knows you can doctor those however you want.
Yeah, that makes sense. It was I'm just sitting there like, wow, if I was like the person like producing the show, I would have been freaking out a little bit. If that backfired on Micah and like he ended up going home because that worked out, like Chris T goes to like legendary status in Survivor Maryland, but like still like the Micah was robbed crew led by myself would completely shut down Survivor Maryland forever.
True. I can agree with that.
So,
speaking of Micah, should we talk about Micah? A little bit of a breakthrough episode for Micah. No more purple Micah. He had some really good thoughts. I like the way that he handled the secret pair twist. And I think he's back in the mix finally. And I've been excited to see him. I've been the low guy on Micah, because we really hadn't seen anything from him. And I felt like he had a lot of potential, obviously, coming into the season. And last season, I felt like he was a little bit slow to get in the game and really kind of playing out of Evan's, playing behind Evan, which is a good spot to be in. But at that point, really had nothing left he could do. But it was nice to see him kind of making moves for himself here. And it's more purple Evan now than it is purple Micah, I would say. But it's not really. I mean, they're both in the mix for sure.
I think you're exaggerating the use of the purple.
I'm not sure.
Mike and Alex were the two quietest guys on that tribe.
I think the only purple player this season has been Brandon, and he quickly turned that around tonight with the table.
Micah has definitely been in the episodes. I'm not sure which version of the show you.
It's all relative. It's Survivor Maryland. There's so much character development. No one's too purple.
I don't know what you mean.
That's like saying that like Laurel is purple just because she's not as big of a person as like Dom or Wendell.
Right.
Yeah, I would not say that Micah was purple until this episode, but I could see you saying that like he was a background character who had much more of a breakout episode. I mean, he was able to articulate where Shannon and Evan don't trust each other as much, whether I think surprised me coming into the tonight. I wouldn't have expected that. And Micah really talked about how he's the glue in between them still. He's holding them together. He ratted out his own partner, Sierra, which, I mean, good that he helped Shannon. Did he want to screw over his partner in the process? I don't know, but it was an interesting call. I mean, at least he, was getting in there. He was making moves.
Right.
Just so happy to see the Soka trio together again.
Yeah,
I'm afraid it's going to fall apart at some point because it just seems so unlikely that they bring it, all the way to the end by any stretch of the imagination. But very happy to see them together any chance that we get.
Of course.
Well, one of the things we can talk about that in a sec. Sorry, just to jump in, but I heard a lot.
How dare you?
I heard a lot.
Wait a minute. Are you the host of Survivor Maryland?
So I heard a lot in the extended off season about the off years, about people. Some people were worried about the Soka trio all coming back together, and I mean, I think that I can understand why people would say that, but I think I was excited because even in the off season, the stuff started to come out about what would have happened if we won the Rocks and Shannon and Evan wanted to turn on each other, blah, blah, blah. So I think we see that they're definitely still a thing, but it's not an innocent, naive thing the same way it was last time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, Shannon's got a lot of connections with her tribe, even though she, may be at the bottom of her alliance, may not be. But I mean, she was forced with this tribe split from early on that she had to play without those two guys. So I mean, she's had to make new friends, and now that I mean, if they do come back together and we have a swap sometime soon or even a merge down the line eventually, it will be interesting to track those three and see how well they can work together or not, because I really feel like if especially Shannon, if she's working with all these the girls on that side, it's going to be hard for her to find a way to rope the two guys in if she ends up on the on the majority and they're not.
I mean, if you look at Shannon's connections right now, she's working with that group of 5 girls, and then she also has Micah and Evan, and she has LeCompte and Eric.
Yeah.
So Shannon is really, really well connected, and I know people were worried coming into the season about Shannon saying she really wants to be more strategic this time, and people were worried that she might overplay. But we heard a couple people even talk about it tonight. One of my theories that I had coming in was that it's going to be a lot harder to be seen as overplaying in Survivor Maryland because people who are not playing at all, you don't know that they're not playing. You don't see them sitting in a shelter all day. For all you know, they're talking to everyone but you. So you may as well assume that they're working against you. So people who are overplaying and are talking to you, at least they are talking to you. So I think Shannon's actually set up really well so far, and she's probably the one that's impressed me the most, other than maybe Trubel. But between the two of them,
and Holly, obviously. I mean, that's not a question. I mean,
sure.
Yeah, no, that's a very fair point. You have the people like the either of the Chris's or maybe like an Ashley who, like, whenever you're talking to them, like something's probably up with this. Like they do seem like they're attacking the conversations they have with like full force. But Shannon does approach all of her conversations with some subtlety. She tries to bring people in and just make them feel good with her. So yeah, I mean, I agree. I like what I'm seeing from her so far, and I do hope it continues.
I think her biggest obstacle might be this Evan Micah situation to see what happens. If Micah, I mean, I think Micah knows Evan better than anyone, and knows that Evan really doesn't trust her. I could see some situation down the line where they have opposite factions. Maybe it's this Lecomte Trubel, some kind of faction there versus some, and maybe Lecomte's going to have to ultimately decide between an Evan or a Shannon down the line, or we'll see. I mean, I could see something like that happening, and to me, that's the biggest threat to Shannon right now. Otherwise, she's in a really good spot.
She just got out the one person she said that she wanted to get out the most. So things aren't looking too bad
for sure.
Let's use this,
Rebecca.
Yeah, what's a good transition into the girls' tribe? Rebecca,
jury queen,
the
queen of
survivor of 0 tribal councils, where she was not immune.
That's true. She's never survived the tribal, right? Where she was immune.
That she wasn't immune at.
Yeah. Wow. What's our take on Rebecca? Do we have a eulogy? Did they make the right move? What do you guys think?
Well, I
think you have to talk about it from everyone's individual perspective. I think it's very different for every person. But in terms of Rebecca in general, I think she's a nice person and a decent concept of the game. But I think that she really struggled with a little bit of what I think the Soka Trio admittedly themselves struggle with, was just connections with people outside of their own alliance. She obviously had a tight alliance with Ashley, and she had some other workings going on, but she didn't have a good read on the Holly situation, and she didn't put enough work in with these 5 that really were dominating the tribe, and that ultimately doomed her, I think.
I really lost my train of thought just now, so somebody else talk. It just flew out of my head. Sorry.
Yeah, well, first of all, I guess Rebecca is statistically the worst Survivor Maryland player of all time, right? So she's got that going for her. But I think it was shown that she just wasn't good at integrating herself in the tribe. She didn't really talk to people except for Ashley, and by the time she started talking to people, it seemed like it was a little too late. There was already a foolproof plan to get her out at the vote, so there was really nothing she could have done at that point. I am curious as to why they chose to go to vote out Rebecca instead of Ashley if they were going to target that duo, because it seems like Ashley was the one that was getting on a lot of people's nerves and that everyone wanted out of the game. So I'm not sure what happened. Well, it might
be a little bit of the same thing with the Chris T factor. They seem like these big wild cards, and it's all right, well, we know we have to get rid of them eventually, but they're standing out so much as these obvious people that well, somebody will take them out eventually. So
right.
It's like the Brandon thing. It's the quieter move. And but what I was going to say was that, you obviously have to think about the Francesca Hoagie factor of it, where, she wasn't the first boot in consecutive seasons, or not consecutive, in her both seasons. But, I think a lot of, besides the fact that when Francesca played her second time, people were like, oh, well, wouldn't this be funny to just get her out again? It's all right, well, she was out first last time because she's obviously a very smart girl. She, Francesca she is a very smart person. And Rebecca has, in the short time we've seen her, she does seem like she has a level that she'd be able to, play the game pretty well. So I think, she just is somebody that you want to take out before, again, kind of like Brandon, just kind of get him out while you can. I don't know.
Well, I would say from the point of view of the majority 5 on that girl side, is Rebecca a threat? Maybe. Is Ashley a threat? No. So let's take out Rebecca. The 2 of them are not going to vote against each other. We can deal with Ashley later. I don't feel like I have to worry about Ashley making any alliances with the guys. Let's keep her along.
Which again,
use her as a vote.
Thank God they kept in Queen Ashley in this. My original favorite Survivor Maryland player.
Yeah.
I feel like my draft team is still pretty well intact. I don't know what everybody else's team.
I had it pulled up.
I'm sure everyone wants to know about your draft team.
I prepared. Well, it was a rough night for Scally, who had both Brandon and Rebecca.
My last 2 picks.
I had lost 2 people going as well.
For the context for the audience, we had the 4 of these guys did a draft before the season. Scally and Charles did their own also, but we're not gonna. We'll stick with the 4 for tonight's purposes. So the teams were, and I'll just read the whole thing out real quick. So Charles had Holly, Lecomte, Michelle, Chris Thomas, and Ryan. Obviously, Ryan gone from that. Then Matt Gagan had Micah, Alex Pascal, Eric, Siona, and Ashley.
I still love my team.
It's a great team.
Ligori had So Lagoria is still 5 for 5. We just lose.
And he's got a great team.
Charles left. He'll come back.
He got mad that Lagoria had 5 left. Lagoria is Sabrina, Evan, Trubel, Alex, Chi, and Sierra.
What a dream team.
Liking it.
Right.
And Scally has Shannon, Senti, Victoria, Brandon, and Rebecca.
Right.
So all my eggs are in the Shannon basket. I don't really see Senti or Victoria pulling that out this time, but I felt good about it all going in.
Trubel, Sabrina, Sierra with a small chance. I don't know.
I mean, you have Sabrina and Trubel. I would definitely say Evan is your next best shot there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel great about him though.
I'm still confident in my guy Micah.
Micah said.
Well, speaking of the small chance, we didn't even talk about yet that Sierra with the clutchest immunity challenge yet.
Yeah, who got hit with the bucket? I didn't write that down, but
that was Ashley, right?
Ashley.
Great moment.
It was a very solid moment.
Yeah, I was getting ready to be hyped for Sabrina and Micah.
Like, you don't become a Survivor Maryland without getting hit with the bucket. I feel like
that's what they say. Yeah.
I would appreciate a GIF of Ashley being hit with a bucket. If someone can get
Are we sure she's okay? Like, have we checked in on her since then?
She was very laughy after. Laughy?
Yeah,
sure. A lot of laughter from her after. I think she was all right.
Glad to hear it.
Are we sure it was an accident?
Sure. I mean, I don't think Eric knocked it off, right? It didn't high five her last episode.
It's all coming together. This is starting to make sense.
I mean, and also, like, how clean is that water?
Oh, it's not clean. Not clean.
Did you let them go home and shower right out? I mean, not that you had to keep them.
What is that? What, they live on an island? They don't get to go shower?
No. I don't know if you have them do confessionals right after, but I would be running to the shower so fast. I don't even know if I would do that. Dirty water. What's wrong with you?
Listen, it's Survivor. You gotta suck it up. Although I would sit out of any challenge that took place in the snow. Those do not look fun.
No.
There's no chance I'm running around in the snow for a chance.
We need some snow back for Sabrina.
Yes.
It's the problem of a fall season.
Yeah. I'd say maybe we didn't see it, but I was surprised, especially someone like Chris Thomas wasn't taking advantage of pushing up the bottom of the water bottle, trying to squeeze it at the bottom, make there a little less room.
It was a fun challenge. You really love your eggs and egg tossing.
Yeah, also let's get some pretty good sales on eggs.
Well, actually, they are really
the Survivor
really
Maryland special eggs and dominoes.
So I get a special order from Eggs Andrea. She's my supplier.
And who has the tables? Like I'm going really behind the scenes with all this.
It might be too spoilery. We can't talk about it.
Do you keep those tables from home? Do you bring them? Do you just ask around who has spare tables? Or is that the same table that Brandon flipped?
That is actually probably the same table that Brandon flipped. Yeah.
I don't know if you have a tribal table, a challenge table.
There's flyers all over the campus of Maryland asking for spare tables.
It's crazy. It is crazy the amount of props and things that are just pieces to the challenges that you pull together. I don't know what kind of budget you work off of, but you make it work, and I appreciate all of the challenge stuff. That it does look good.
Yeah, you don't get enough praise, Austin. You're doing a great job with this show.
Thanks. That's why I do these recaps. Really, it's just
why are we praising Austin?
Yeah. So just going back to the girls' tribal. So we've talked a little bit about the move for the from a general sense. I guess the question, just drilling down a little bit more on a couple things. One, do we think? I mean, in terms of the big other target was Victoria in this episode. Which what did you guys think of the fact that she was coming with the target there? Surprising, not surprising?
I want to jump in and say, I know Gagan was rooting for her to go home, and as the resident Victoria stan,
well, what about me?
Fully ready for Victoria to get voted out as soon as she voted for Michelle, and I would not have been that upset about it because it was a very bad move. She knew
let's talk about the move. What is that move?
She knew her alliance was all voting for Rebecca. She knows Rebecca's going out. She knows that Michelle is staying in. At the worst case scenario, it's a tie vote. Why piss off the person that's still in the game? What if one person flipped? There's no reason to move your vote over to Michelle there.
Do we know the reasoning on her part whatsoever?
She said she talked to Rebecca and said that she wouldn't vote for something along those lines.
Well, I'm glad we can all put to put to rest the rumors that Victoria is a good Survivor player.
We're pre-jury. I don't know why she cares what Rebecca thinks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, if she saw the tribe layout and she knew who was voting where, or she thought she did, I don't even know, like, because it's not like there's idols in play.
Yeah.
So
no, I don't understand what was happening. I will say that although I was rooting for Victoria to go home, I was still there's so many people that I'm rooting for that the fact that it was Rebecca versus Victoria at that tribal, I knew I could rest easy and not have to worry about one of the true legends getting voted out.
That was me all episode. It was like, okay, it's Rebecca or Michelle or Sierra. And I was like, all right, I'm fine. And then they say Victoria, and I almost threw my computer across the room. I was furious.
Yeah, I mean, on both tribes, I was pretty content with with the options that were available.
Well, when it was, I like Brendan a decent amount, but when it was him that went over Chris Thomas, I was ecstatic.
How dare you? Ruined his birthday both on screen.
Well, we got a great moment. Him telling Austin to move the computers. That
was the nicest table flip I've ever seen.
I've never seen a moment.
And then immediately after, Austin's like, he walks away, and Austin's like, "Happy birthday!"
Like, in terms of Edgic, I've never seen a person go from like under the radar whatever to like over the top negative within a matter of like 2 minutes on an episode.
OTTNN.
Yeah. Like he managed to make that happen.
Never has an Edgic flipped so hard.
Yeah.
Good for him. We have a nice memory of him on the way out.
I mean,
I will always have a nice memory of Brandon.
He had a very solid voting confessional. He flipped the table. He gave the tribe a nice stare down. It was like it was great Survivor moments all in one.
Yeah, it's good.
Did he quote Hamilton in his voting confessional? I think he did.
That would have been a couple years
Hamilton line?
I'm pretty sure it was.
I didn't.
I don't know that Hamilton.
If you don't know, now you know, or something. He said it was. I think.
I don't think I
remember. The only Brandon speech I remember was, "Let me." What? No, I wrote it down.
Let's keep this short and sweet. I got places to be.
Which is
you got it.
I don't know.
I don't know what this thing is rated. I don't know.
It doesn't seem. It's very confusing to me. It seems very straightforward.
It didn't seem like the editors were trying to protect his edit at all. That's all I gotta say.
Nowhere. I love that.
He took a hard heel turn.
I love Brandon.
Charles, what?
I was just saying. I think he played into everything that happened. I mean, he obviously didn't know about it because the way how the season aired, but it worked perfectly with everyone's perspective of what happened to him on season 4.
I know him acknowledging his haters was like a retroactively smart move.
Exactly. He played it to it perfectly without knowing that was what was going to happen.
So my only other question with the girls' tribe was last week we were talking about on the recap and from the episode that this was tough for Michelle and Senti. We got to see more perspective on Senti's view on. Obviously, I couldn't really show in episode 3, or it would have been kind of obvious. Mm-hmm. So, what were your thoughts on that? And then also, did you guys think Michelle was saved just by luck, or did she do anything to save herself? What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think Senti is in a really good spot, and I think she's in that sweet spot where she's not a target, but she's not a player that's not a target because she's outwardly bad, or people think that she can't win the game, like a Chris Thomas or an Alex Jeeve in his position he's in right now. She's in that spot where I don't think anyone's really targeting her just because they feel like they could get her at some point. But if she finds her, I think with the guys, she has some connections from, Chris Lecomte and different situations that I think can really play into her strengths. And she's in a really good position to kind of repeat the similar game that we really saw from her last time, which I think is exactly what she should do. And if she does do that, I think people are going to reward her for realizing that she's just a really good player of the game, and she manages to pull that off.
My thoughts on Senti from the beginning of the season were like, if you decided to go with Survivor Maryland Game Changers and make like a cast like based on the way that CBS cast their Game Changers, Senti would have been the first lock. Like, just based off of how CBS cast their Game Changers with the Sierra Dawn Thomases of the world and all of those Michaelas and people who were not Game Changers. I was like, Senti is the biggest lock.
Senti hate.
I mean, she's doing fine, but I mean, I still have yet to find a reason why I should be rooting for her.
What? Because what? How she was described as adorably something today. It's very active. How could you not root for her?
I just see like the rest of the players, like, running around making doing their thing, and she's just kind of La La Land. I don't know.
Yeah, but they all like her enough they liked her enough to let her in on the plan of what was happening. You see that she had good relations with Sabrina. Like, she's not like an outcast. People talk to her, and I think that speaks to her social game, which is, people want to work with her and keep her in the game.
I'm not saying she's playing bad or anything. I just have yet to find a reason to start rooting for her, but that's okay. I'm not going to be able to root for all 20.
I mean, I think we're probably just not seeing. I think she is doing good work with her tribe, and not to narrow down her gameplay to this. But I think also the last season that she was on, we saw her work well with a lot of guys on her season, and she's being limited to working with only girls this season so far. So I'm wondering if maybe once there's a tribe swap, it opens it up for her. She's able to, create a mixed gender alliance that does better for herself.
I don't know if she's creating any alliances. I'm sure she
just wait and see.
Join on. Crazy your Matt Gagan's opinions on Victoria being so harsh, and then on Senti being so high.
I don't know why that's crazy.
And I'll say also, where Austin asked if Michelle was saved due in any part to her work versus luck of the draw, I think Michelle, while you might not need her as a number now, Michelle is talking to Shannon, she's talking to Victoria, she's talking to people where you might not need Michelle, but at least that she is open to working with you in the future, whereas Siona was not. Siona was never going to bend over to what you wanted to do. And Senti, maybe she is, maybe she's not right now. Is Ashley, is Rebecca? Probably not. So Michelle is at least putting herself out there where I'm a number. Work with me, please. I'll help you.
I think that's a great point, because obviously things are about to swap up right now, and you're obviously not going to swap into a tribe with your entire alliance of 5. And we see this all the time in Survivor. It's the marriage of convenience. When you get swapped, you want people that you trust and that you have open lines of communication with in the past. And I think Michelle did a really good job of that. She wasn't pissed, even though everyone obviously felt bad about keeping her in the dark. And that she's very aware of the position that she was in, but she also was keeping lines open with, like Scally said, with pretty much everybody, and especially with Shannon, which if Shannon is the big player that we think she is, could really help her coming up at the next swap. So I don't think she's in really any immediate danger, in particular because of what's happened in the past and because of her close alliance that happened. But I think it's important to know with Michelle is that it seemed like she came into the game with as many pre-games as pretty much anybody, and those have quickly fallen apart for her. Whether it's her fault or the fault of whatever's happened, she hasn't been in the majority in either of the votes so far, despite the fact that she seemingly was in this amazing position for the game. In the first episode, we saw all these people that she had great close connections with from outside the game and inside the game, and none of them have come into fruition yet for her.
Okay, all right. I think those are all really good points on both tribes. Let's transition into something. I think the partner twist this was probably its biggest episode in terms of impact on the game. And the first time, maybe since the premiere, that we've really seen. I don't think the premiere just was introducing it, but in terms of actually affecting voting decisions, I think this was the most we've seen it. So somehow after 5 episodes, we're only down to 5 partner pairs left, which would be, and we got to see 2 new ones introduce themselves tonight. So we have Sabrina and Trubel, Sierra and Micah, Chris LeCompte and Holly, Chris Thomas and Victoria, and Eric and Shannon. So I guess halfway through the twist, what are your guys' general thoughts on that going forward, how it affected tonight, and what your outlook is?
Is Victoria the last one who is yet to tell her partner, or is anybody else not told yet? And maybe you can answer this. Is it?
I think so. Everyone else seems to know.
It's interesting. I think the other 9 have been shown or was like Alex and Ashley, so I don't think it's like me hiding something.
Right.
Well, I love Sabrina saying to Trubel, I wasn't sure if you were worth my time. So and then proceeds to spend 2 hours in the car.
Austin, I'm assuming we'll get that full hour and 42-minute secret scene online where we can watch the entirety of their conversation, because that's something I'm interested in.
That's just the power of the Trubel. I mean, he throws her off. She has no connection with him whatsoever, and then she has to spend 2 hours talking to him because he's just that engaging. And I mean, buying her a gift was a really nice present. I thought he just played that situation really well.
Yeah, she goes running right back to him. She's like, "Hi, look at this video where I just trashed you, and I was how much I hate you for ruining my birthday." He's like, "Ha, we're great friends."
All right. Needless to say, I'm very excited to watch them work together.
Are we shipping them at all? Is there some kind of?
I think there are plenty of people shipping them.
Oh,
yeah.
I was about to make an Instagram account for Shubrina.
It seemed like just based on the edit, the way that conversation was edited, it seemed like maybe we're being set up for some kind of romantic thing down the line with these two.
That immediately the next scene was Shannon saying, "Me and Sabrina had to talk about boy stuff," and I was like, "Who's the boy?"
I didn't know who the boys are for both of them immediately. But I think this partner twist is really coming into play, and I think that what we saw from Chris this episode makes me think that it's been a reason for some of the votes in the past, in the first 4 votes that we didn't get this, in the first 3 votes I should say, that we didn't get to see it play out that way. I think it's definitely a factor on people's minds, and I think it's going to be an even bigger factor when some of these pairs start to come together with the swap, which we're assuming is coming at some point. But who knows with this new person coming into the game, which that's going to delay the swap, or if there's a new person coming into the game. But I think that it's playing out exactly as you would hope. The people deducing the wrong people is also adding another element to the game with the whole Eric just assuming that who was he assuming that it was the wrong partner? Or Sabrina, right? It was Sabrina or something.
Oh yeah, Sabrina said that.
Sabrina and Christine. Yeah,
right. They assumed that Sabrina. Right. So Victoria not telling Chris and no one knowing that is clearly throwing everybody for a loop. And it's been highlighted a few times, so I think it's going to come into play at some point, and I'm really excited to see kind of what happens with the Victoria Chris Thomas situation.
Go ahead.
No, you.
Well, what I was going to say is for any other person, I think not telling your partner immediately puts you at a disadvantage. You are wasting time where you could be building trust because everyone else is going to spill it at some point. Right. And then you like the one person who's not building trust, except when you have
if you have Chris Thomas as your partner.
You don't know. He could be making up fake text. Victoria's 100% with me. Don't worry. She's my partner. We're going to work together. And so I really, until this episode, questioned it again. And then just seeing Chris Thomas go off the rails. I mean, you see Chris saying, "I don't want the target on Alex, so I'm going to put it on me so that the target will be on Evan." So I don't blame Victoria.
Can we talk about that? That worked out perfectly. He saved himself and Alex. I mean, we're making fun of Chris Thomas, but
I think he wanted to get Evan out though.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, it didn't work out perfectly for him, but
he really tried. He had to have seen that Evan thing wasn't going to work. But anyway, go back to the partner.
Guys, there's some commenter in the chat that says, "I agree with Brian. Chris Thomas."
Chris Thomas just said that.
Chris Thomas sucks.
That's what I heard.
Chris Thomas
sucks.
That's what I heard. I said he went a little off the rails this time.
I think it was cool that we see Chris and Holly like actively talking about like strategizing their games around it, saying like who are the partners that are still left in so that we can target them. Like they are actively trying to be like the last pair standing so that they could get that 2 rounds of immunity, which I'm assuming other people are talking about that. But I think it was cool that we got to see the 2 of them really strategizing and shaping their games around the twist.
Give me King and Shannon for the final remaining pair.
Trubel and Sabrina, I think, are like minus 400.
I'll take Trubel and Sabrina.
Yeah, I don't think they're both in just a great position.
I think. I do think those will probably be the last 2, but I don't know. I'll give Shannon and King the edge.
I worry about King a little bit. I don't know. He doesn't. Yeah. We talked about Chris Thomas's lack of finesse, which we talked about, but I think that King also has that a little bit as well. He's in a great spot on this tribe, but when things swap up, if he's not with Chris Lecomte or if he's with some of these people who are really closer with Chris Lecomte or with Trubel than they were with him, we could see some trouble for King coming up, I think.
Yeah, I don't know how he does when he's under pressure. You saw in his like original season, as soon as he wasn't in like the power position of the tribe, he like went down like pretty much without a fight. You saw like as soon as his position in the game got threatened today, like when Chris Thomas came to him, like he seemed to get very frazzled, like he didn't know how to handle Chris. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how well King can handle adversity, but as long as he's in like a dominant position, he's able to run the game.
And we saw that exact same scenario, as you said, in last season.
Exactly, yeah.
When he was controlling the first couple of votes, he was riding high, and the second that the number potentially could have swapped away from him, he did not do himself any favors. So I think that we see that happen, and I think also Chris Thomas has longevity in the game. I think. He's gotten a serious edit. I said this from day one. I don't necessarily think he's going to win the game anymore, but I think that he's going to be in for a while, and I'm very here for it. I think he's one of the best characters in the history of the show.
I thought it was interesting that after the first episode, I asked you who was getting a winner's edit, and you rattle off everyone that was on your drafted team.
I still feel that way.
Charles, confirmation bias is not a thing.
Charles sucking up to Chris Thomas because he's in the chat.
Yeah.
I'm the only one who drafted him. What are you talking about?
I'm feeling more like Patrick Bolton vibes.
Was that a thing where we could have all drafted him?
No, I was talking about what's my draft.
Chris Thomas is calling you out in the chat too.
Who?
He's calling out Charles.
No,
Chris Thomas building the social bonds is
not bullshit. All right. I said you were a horrible finesse in the game, for the record.
I will say I do think that the pairs twist did impact tonight a lot. I think that this tonight probably doesn't play the same way had the pairs twist not come in. I mean, you saw, especially Lecomte was going about trying to control both tribal councils just to make sure. And I don't think he has as much of a vested interest had the pairs twist not be in play.
No, I mean, if I'm Chris Lecomte, I'm not worried about any pairs twists, about any other alliances. I'm worried about getting myself through every vote and finding a way for me to get to the end. Because when you're a player like Chris Lecomte, you can't really be worrying about everything else.
When you're a player like Chris Lecomte, you really need those 2 rounds of immunity coming up.
Right.
Yeah. What do we think about Chris Lecomte's position in the game?
I can't wait for him to get voted out.
How dare you?
That wasn't my question. No. You think he's getting voted out immediately?
I think his time will be up soon. He's such
so weird that you like boring Survivor seasons.
I don't know how to respond to that.
We know that Gagan roots for Pagongings, so
well, voting out Chris Lecomte would not be a Pagonging.
I know.
He's like Dream Final 2 is Ashley and Senti. Like
that wouldn't be boring, to be fair.
Yeah,
but I will say I'm impressed that Chris Lecomte has managed to take such a stranglehold from the point of view that we're being shown, at least right now, where
Chris
he
Lecomte?
controls. Yeah, I said Chris Lecomte, did I not? But
yeah,
so I've been impressed that who should have been, and I mean for some people is the largest target in the game to start.
I would have thought he would have been out earlier. Like, yeah,
and to the point where he has such good relationships on the other tribe, he's having some influence. Mm-hmm. So I am impressed with Chris Lecomte, even just for doing as well as he's done in 5 episodes.
The way he played that Rebecca situation, I thought was even though she got voted out, was just showed kind of how good of a player he is in this game. And even if he does get voted out eventually for being just the target he is, it's hard for me to see a tribal configuration where he doesn't have some solid connections, at least with people who are looking to keep him in the game at least past the merge as the target that he is. And if that can happen and if he can get there with Holly, I think I think he puts him in a really interesting spot.
That's exactly who I was going to point out, Holly. It does seem like there's people who are considering that they want to go further in the game with people who may not be like the safest person to bring along, but somebody who is like going to stand out as a threat, or somebody who is going to be maybe more easily beatable in the end. I don't know. I have no idea how Lecomte would do in a jury vote. I don't know if he would be like a top candidate for a bitter jury, something like that. But I feel like they didn't take him out where Tony got taken out, where like the big players sometimes get taken out early in the game, and now that he's gone so far, it's like you might as well just bring him to the end and see if you can beat him in the final 2.
I would not bring it. I wouldn't bring him anywhere near the end.
But I wouldn't think it's actually going to happen, because I do think it's a lot different with a Survivor Maryland kind of season, where it's like, all right, these big targets are still kind of obvious along the way, and it will be easier to get them out kind of whenever you want to. But I don't know. I feel like there's players that are thinking like Holly more than not.
I just think whenever, like you said, they could target him whenever. I think whenever, be it post swap, post merge, whenever say Evan and Micah realize that it no longer benefits them to work with Chris, they could rally up a few more people and get the numbers against him. He's always going to be a target, and he's always going to be a target that people are going to want to take out somewhere along the line.
Yeah, I do wonder how much, and it'll only affect it probably a couple placements at the most, but whereas on, the CBS version, Chris LeCompte probably is a target at 10, 11, but when you are looking at, okay, we have 15 days left versus, okay, we have 2 months, we can deal with Chris LeCompte down the road. So I think that does help a little bit where it's, okay, we have a lot of time to pass before we actually have to deal with this.
Yeah, like, and this guy will probably blow his game up on his own, so don't worry about it right now.
Who's the person that's going to make that move down the line? Trubel? I mean, right now, I just don't think that Evan and Micah have any interest taking him out. I don't think.
Right now they don't. Yeah, you're right.
I don't think down the line either. I really don't.
That's a bold prediction.
We don't know. We're making predictions. Obviously, we don't know. We obviously don't know. I'm telling you that I think in Evan's mind, I think Chris LeCompte's number one is. I think Evan's number one outside of Micah is Chris LeCompte.
Which probably isn't the worst idea for him.
No, I think it's a great idea for him, but I don't think he's taking him out anytime soon. Is my point.
The new Soka trio: Micah, Evan, and Chris LeCompte. Sorry, Shannon.
Oh, poor Shannon.
It's like in wrestling groups where sometimes they like kick people out and then new people join in.
RKO.
Yeah, the Degeneration X of Survivor Maryland.
I mean, I think if we were to bet on it last longer for the Soka trio, I think we would all take Shannon. So, if she's out of the Soka trio, it's probably good for her.
Don't speak like that.
I'll see that.
I started saying.
All right, let's transition because we've been going over for an hour and 10 minutes or so. So I have a couple shorter overall questions, and then we'll take some questions from the chat, and then I think we'll be good to go. But let's start off with just like to do your favorite moments, little moments, big moments, whatever from the episode overall.
The bucket.
Favorite moment of the episode?
Sorry, Ashley.
I don't know. I got to think about that. Probably, I don't know. Brandon, the heel turn on Brandon was pretty great to watch, I would say. Obviously, everything that Holly did was amazing, obviously.
Sure.
We got to talk about
So
that.
are we giving out a fishy or are we like?
No, we're just best moment. Okay.
I'll say Trubel mentioned it in the chat actually, but Chris Thomas had a mid-confessional ab workout. So I feel like he's right. It deserves some attention. I'll bring it up.
This is so great.
The top tier.
I'm upset he wasn't drinking at Tribal tonight, though.
Yeah,
he's always good. Always good for one of those ones.
I like the birthday storyline too. That was fun to follow.
That was my favorite.
Yeah, that was good. I liked everything you guys were saying. I liked the way that Brandon went out, but my favorite moment was not from the episode, so I'm not even going to answer your question. But before I watched the episode, I was watching the secret scenes from last episode, and Austin trying to get Ashley to talk about week 2 in confessional, and she just did not address the concept or even humor Austin at all. And then she asked him if she was going to need to change clothes. Just hearing Austin get frustrated this is why I love Ashley.
And another underrated moment. Now that Siona's gone, I guess Sierra thought she needed to step in and be like extremely sassy towards you when you were like, and she's like, "Of course I feel good about it. Like, what do you expect me to say?" I'm like, "Whoa.
What do you want me to say?"
She warned Siona about the vote. She had to take her mantle, I guess.
That's true.
I was so offended by the question. Like, how could you ask me how I feel? Of course I feel great.
Yeah, as if Austin isn't moderating every tribal council. Like, she just got taken by surprise.
Calm down, Sierra. It's gonna be okay. We just needed to get through that one question.
My favorite moments are whenever somebody complains to you about what's going on in the game. It's like, I just imagine your reaction, your face, but that must be going on.
Good episode.
Okay, that's that question. I don't know what you're talking about, Charles. That's why I was confused. I don't know. I guess
when you're like walking, aren't you filming? Aren't they like talking to you when they're doing like a one-on-one confessional? When they're like walking for tribe, someone was like, "Austin, I can't believe something along those lines."
Oh, that was early. No, I know what you're talking about. It was early. It was.
I'm not crazy, I promise.
Was it Michelle and Senti talking? And
and Michelle was like, "I hate this game." Well,
yeah. I assume that you were filming right next to her, and that's why she said that to you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not.
I think so. I don't even know. Anyway, I got you now. I thought you were talking about the wait. Okay. Next question. This is gonna be quick. Who was the player of the episode?
It was
Trubel? Or I might give it to Shannon.
Ooh.
She got the information about possibly being on the bottom of her alliance. She kind of flipped things around when she had an opportunity. She got out who she wanted, and I don't know. Things are looking pretty good for her. So, Shannon.
Yeah, I feel like you could go Trubel as an obvious answer, but you could probably just say Trubel like every episode, and then that would get a little boring and repetitive. I think you could also say Micah, but I might be a little biased because I'm a big Micah super fan. But so I'll go with
Skinny legend.
Yeah, I'll go with Alex G just because he demonstrated how to.
I was
play
thinking
his
about. Oh my God.
I don't care. Just because he demonstrated how to play from the bottom and didn't just be an idiot like Brendan and Chris Thomas.
Whoa.
for me, it's I think it's between Senti and Holly. I thought they both had really.
How do we kick Charles out? Remember when he was like he dropped from the call?
Yeah.
Charles. What did Holly do this week again?
She didn't even get stung by a bee this week.
Hold on. She was the only person who was the people actually thought were in that Rebecca actually thought was in that alliance with him.
I know you said Holly too, but I heard Senti.
Which means she kept saying over and over again, "I hope Holly and Michelle do well," or whatever, or whoever was voting with her, and Holly was included in that as the only.
She said everyone but Shannon, really.
Huh?
Holly's going to get in her own way. I think that's how she's going to go out of this game.
Well,
she's just going to be doing something great and on a path to victory, and she's just going to like trip over her own two feet.
I'm not making a commentary on her.
Charles will still say she's getting a winner at it.
Yeah, he will.
I'm not making a comment on her future position in the game. I thought this episode she did the best job of positioning herself while still making a decision that made the most sense to her, but she didn't have that many connections with that side, even though they still thought that she was completely with them no matter what. And that's a great spot to be in the pre-jury when they don't have to vote for you in the end. Having every single person until the end think you're with them clearly means she's making connections with people outside of her alliance.
Yeah, no, I think she's doing fine. I just I'm worried about her going forward.
I don't disagree with that whatsoever.
Good.
I'm going to throw a small nomination to Eric just for recognizing Chris Thomas's plan immediately, seeing through it in 0.2 seconds. Throw that one out there.
Next confessional, like not even wondering.
Nobody's buying the suggestion of Chris Thomas in the chat.
The suggestion by
you know,
if we're going
you can get
character for the episode. Give me Chris Thomas, followed shortly by Brandon, probably right after.
Yeah, most entertaining. I mean,
Chris Thomas wins the award for best text message of the
or worst text message. I would give him worst text message.
Best ab workout.
Best and worst.
Both by default.
Yeah.
He made it through against all odds. So.
Yeah, you know what?
And he saved Alex. As I said, he saved Alex as well.
Saved Alex. I really don't think he had anything to do with saving Alex.
All part of the plan.
If you want to give that to Chris, I guess we'll go up with that narrative that Alex would have been gone if not for the heroics of Chris Thomas tonight.
If Chris Thomas said repeatedly that if he brings a target on himself, he might save Alex, and that's what he did. He went out there and saved Alex. You got to give him credit for that.
I don't have to give him credit. You have to give him credit for that because you're trying to get on his good side. Right?
I'm not trying to get on his good side.
I mean, sure.
All right, my last question for you guys is a two-parter. So first question is, who do you stand right now, and who's your winner pick?
Oh, it
can be the same
fun one.
Yeah.
Do you have the next hour so that I can everybody stand?
Do it, Ligori.
I mean. Micah, Evan are still, and Shannon still the top of the whatever. And winner pick, I do feel good about Trubel, so I'll stick with that one. And he's on my draft team, so I'm tying the Soka trio for the top, even though Micah might be number one. And winner pick Trubel.
All right, I guess I'll go next.
Someone should go next.
I guess so. Yeah. Yeah. I love Micah too, but I'm having trouble narrowing it down to one. Micah and Evan are both great, but I find it hard to just not root for Sabrina every second she's on screen.
We haven't even talked about Sabrina much, except for with
the and the original season she was on. I was devastated when she was voted out, elated when Austin told me she'd be on All Stars.
Yes.
She was my preseason favorite, and she's still my favorite, but honorable mention to Micah, who was another one of my favorites. He has surpassed Evan as my favorite member of the Soka trio as well. Sorry, Evan.
You cover the Sabrina love. I'll cover the Micah love, and I feel like we'll all be happy because I appreciate you mentioning Sabrina. Since I think
we're on the same page with Sabrina and Micah.
Sabrina is a legend.
Yeah.
And
Queen.
Also, shout out to Micah's piercings. Really rocking the piercings. they look so good on him. He's just I really just can't get over it.
That's really the only reason you guys like him this much. I feel like not to be the guy that
Micah
is a king.
Yeah.
So Sabrina,
you can take your awful winner picks and draft teams that are going to win the game and stop hating.
Exactly. And for a winner pick, speaking of Micah, he was my preseason winner pick. I'm going to continue saying he's my winner pick until he's voted out. I don't care how bad Charles is saying his edit is, how purple his edit is. I'm sticking with it, and he's my winner pick.
Yeah, purple Micah.
Purple Micah.
I mean, just to echo the same things, I came in, highly standing Shannon. Victoria was like one of my favorites preseason. I haven't seen as much this season, but I still like Victoria a lot.
Speaking of sucking up in the chat here, I mean, come on.
Oh, Victoria's in the chat.
Sure.
Oh.
I'm on you guys, but okay.
I've always loved Victoria.
But my preseason winner pick was Shannon. I'm sticking with Shannon. I think that her and Trubel are probably the top two picks right now. But...
Can I throw some love to Pascal? He's
a legend gone way too soon.
Coming around here.
Gone but never forgotten.
He's in Spain.
I'm still not over it. I said that Survivor Maryland All-Stars was canceled after the first episode, and somehow you brought me back in for a second episode, but it's I'm still not over it.
Yeah, Pascal and Siona both were really tough losses for me. Siona was hard.
These All-Star seasons are really hard to get through.
It's so bad. When it was between Siona and Ashley, I was like crying on my couch.
It was.
I mean, all right. Winner pick, man. I don't know.
So I think you have.
I thought you knew. I'm pretty sure you know.
I mean, yeah. It sounds stupid for me to just say Holly, but why would I not?
Go for it. It's not a terror.
I took her first overall for a reason. I don't think anything's changed. I think we've seen some of the skills she has. I do worry about what's going to happen at a potential swap, and if she gets potentially taken out by some Chris LeCompte potential combo damage of their big targets and something like that because Chris LeCompte's target. But I do think that she's getting a good edit and she's playing a great game. I think like I said, she's made great alliances with people outside of her alliance, and that is the most important thing that people don't even think about when a swap comes up, is that she potentially could get just saved just from the fact that the other girls on her tribe may like her more than they like the other people in her alliance that they haven't talked to as much. So I'm going to stick with that. But I mean, I do think that Sabrina and Trubel are in the mix as well in terms of winner for sure. They're getting great edits. Shannon as well, obviously, is in there too.
So is that who you're standing as well, Holly?
Yeah, of course. I mean, come on.
Of course. As long as we can all agree when we do this again next week that we're all standing Faluke and she's all of our winners. Yeah, next week that's all we'll have an emergency Faluke podcast.
Oh my god!
I just hope her reputation doesn't get ruined by a return appearance like a few actual other CBS Survivor people.
I'm willing to risk it. I would do anything to get more.
It's worth the risk.
Yeah, exactly.
Does no one think that Alex G is going to win?
I mean, he could. I don't know.
I'll take that bet.
I think he's on my team, so I'm rooting for him. But
I don't know how Austin's at it.
Are you?
Yeah. I don't know why, but
he's a very nice guy.
He's fine. I like everyone on the cast.
Yeah, I do too. Everyone.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not true. Wait till when's the after show for this so that we can actually go.
We'll get more into that in the after show.
The after show.
That's what Austin takes the shirt off.
Survivor Maryland After Dark. Yeah, that's what I'm here for.
Holly's in the chat saying, "Whoever Charles is, we can be friends." So your dreams have come true.
Holly, you're gonna regret that so.
Yeah,
Holly, you should have consulted me on that one first.
We all regret it already.
This time tomorrow. What did I get myself into?
And Feedsbot wants to know where Holly's idol clue was. I agree. She should have gotten that clue if she wanted.
Yeah, she's great.
Oh, that was the real debate of the episode. Should she have gotten something?
Oh, well, you can see that how many years ago this happened, saying that Survivor is always fair, because since then,
the pre-Patrick
question.
I agree. I mean, I don't think
I wouldn't have been upset about it either way.
Yeah,
I feel like what are you gonna do?
If you really need immunity in this spot, you did something.
Give someone immunity who isn't going to snap at Austin when they get to tribal, and he asks them how they feel about being immune.
Yeah, also, Sierra won immunity when she needed it, and that speaks more to other people's games that they don't need the immunity to stay alive. So I don't think that you need to give them an immunity idol just because they don't have a chance to win an immunity. If you're playing the game correctly, you should not be in that position.
All right, Let me jump into the questions a little bit while we have a few minutes. Unless anyone has to run right now.
No, we got unlimited time, bud.
Depends on what Charles thinks are.
I'm good to go to like 2, 3 in the morning.
Yeah, I'm ready for a marathon.
We run last night.
I am not. So Secret Hitler can start afterwards. You can find that on the after show.
I will say, if Felipe comes in and Austin's been lying this whole time, Austin, you should be better at Secret Hitler if you've been lying. This whole time.
That's a great take. Really good take. I don't think Austin has. That's what I'm saying. I don't think Austin has the level in him. I don't think
it's not in his range.
It's not in his range. So that's why I think it's just. It might be Felipe coming in just to do something, but I don't think.
I'm fine even if she. Well, no, he did say
the full words. There are 16 players.
Yeah, that didn't say that are playing the game full time. He said introducing before the challenge.
Seems a little wordy. We have 16 players who are going to play the game.
No, I mean you know what I mean. We never saw them actually in the game. We never saw them in the game. It could just be for that challenge.
Also, but I didn't get to articulate this before, but when we were talking about, Charles was saying we would question, there would be an asterisk near the winner if someone came in. But at the same time, okay, they're coming in and they skipped 5 votes, whatever the case may be, but they also never had a chance at the partners twist, so they have no chance at 2 rounds of immunity. They missed out on relationships for however many weeks, so I don't think that they're coming in at any kind of advantage, really.
Yeah, Felipe doesn't need a partner.
Clear disadvantage.
I mean,
I think it's a disadvantage.
It goes back to the Big Brother 14 twist.
But they were in the house the whole time.
They were there.
Right.
I don't think we need to relitigate the Big Brother 14 twist.
Let's go over Big Brother 14 while we're here.
Austin, what are your thoughts on Big Brother 14? No, but I'm not gonna boycott the season or think it's not a great season if that happens. I just think there are gonna be some people that are gonna complain about that if that person does go on to win. But obviously, if Felipe is in, that's great feeds.
If anyone is
feeds, we're getting feeds.
If anyone complains that Felipe wins the Survivor season, I don't want to talk to them.
Immediately block on all social media. That's it.
Yeah.
All right. Let me jump into the question. My thing froze for a sec. So good thing you guys are.
I was wondering.
You missed an intense Big Brother 14 conversation.
Oh, that's good. I definitely could have hung with that. I should probably prepare before I go on the thing tomorrow.
On what?
So,
you know what?
Yeah. What are you going on?
Forget. It's top secret.
So Morgan Glassberg asked, "Where has Alex been?" I don't know if Morgan's talking about Alex Pascal or Alex G. I think Alex G has explained where he's been.
I will say
Alex Pascal is not where he's supposed to be, as in
Alex Pascal, quick recap, he got voted out in the first episode, so that's why he hasn't been on the show.
Or also, minor moment, there was is it Alex B from season 2? He helps you on the question. It was like you were explaining the challenge, or it was right after it's over. He's just juggling in the background. I was like, all right, I appreciate it.
I do think Alex G has legs in the game, though. I think this relationship with Trubel is going to turn into something.
Hey, I said that.
And you know what I liked? I don't think we talked about the whole watch out thing apparently that happened last week. The text message.
Oh, right.
We didn't even talk about that. About how what was that? That
what is that?
That threw me off. Just like the text
yeah.
itself, like watch out.
It's so needlessly like ominous.
Yeah, so I don't know if anyone said that they were feeling good about that was Sierra, right?
Yeah,
so I might take that back if I did say that at any point.
Sierra's lost.
I think there's merit to attempting to do what she did, but I don't think there's merit to texting her immediately before tribal council saying "watch out." I think there's merit. I
don't think anyone will argue that.
Yeah.
Especially when we were just talking about how text messages in Survivor Maryland don't go too well together. And she actually texted that. It wasn't a fake Sierra.
Yeah, I forgot.
What if Chris Thomas was behind that text?
I was going to say.
You never know. Secret teams are going to come out soon.
For the text. And also, what text was worse, Chris Thomas or Sierra?
Well, Chris Thomas at least had a point to what he was doing.
I mean, so did Sierra. She tried to make a bond with someone that potentially she thought might stay in the game, or I don't know. She wanted her to
You're giving her a lot of credit. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm just trying to be nice here. I don't know.
I don't think Sierra's in the chat, so you're okay. You can say whatever you want.
Yeah, that stopped everybody so far.
Wait, did you ever post the draft you did with the crew, Austin, from Timothy? I did not. I'll try to dig that up still. I've just been busy trying to get all this stuff going. Oh, I just lost. But okay, we can skip that. All right, who has a higher? This is from Dylan. Who has a higher chance of winning, Ashley, Feluke, or the Bucket?
Well, the Bucket already won tonight's episode, so I don't know if they're gonna get another shot to take the whole thing down.
If I was wagering, I think I would bet on Feluke pretty easily. Yeah. If she's 10% to come back, she's probably 0.8% or something to win the game, and that's better odds than Ashley.
Show your work. I don't know where you're getting this math from.
I just said, I made us some random numbers, but let's say she's 10% to come back. What percent do you have her win the game if she comes back? Whatever that number is, it's still higher than Ashley has. So, any single person who potentially could win the game right now has a higher chance than Ashley.
Hey, but if the Bucket makes a return appearance in a future episode, I won't count it out.
Oh, I'm disagreeing with that. If I were to do the math out, I would give. Neither of them is likely. And I think that if Feluke does come back, she's not going to be in a good spot. And I think that's what I'd be worried about for you guys more than anything.
You're sleeping on the Bucket, so.
You really are.
Connor says, and this is the question we've really been missing tonight, is if you could get stung by a giant mosquito and never get stung again, or keep your current relationship with mosquitoes, which would you pick?
Wait, what was that? Repeat that?
Don't
Isn't that a Big Brother?
Yeah, it's a big
question?
If I were to what or what?
If you could
it's the Big Jeff mosquito question, Charles.
Got it.
Okay. I even got that one. That's good.
Yeah.
How did you get that one?
I listen to some Big Brother podcasts. It's a rough stretch, all right?
I saw. Sorry, continue.
For the record, I'm fine with my current relationship with mosquitoes.
Okay. Bruno says, do they think Trubel and Sabrina are going to become a showmance, or is their relationship platonic? I feel like we talked about that. You guys think that there were maybe some sparks, but not sure.
I mean, I think that's just me projecting my hope.
Yeah, I think we're all hoping for it. It'd be the most amazing Survivor couple that's ever existed, but I don't know. Dreams don't come true on Survivor Maryland. So.
Better than Eric and Jamie?
Yes.
You see how everyone's birthdays go. I don't think that it's really set up for
it.
I will say that when as soon as she picked his name out of the bag, I was like, it wasn't even like for that reason. I just was so excited. I was like, oh, these are two people that I just love as people.
We know how much you love Trubel based on his edit here, Austin.
Wait, I just tell the story. Let's see. Patrick Dorson says, who has changed their gameplay style the most? There are a handful of players that are playing the same as they were before, but what about otherwise?
Give me Sabrina.
Yeah.
She's doing well compared to
well.
Yeah, she seems like more kind of like self-aware this season, not as dependent on like Eric to just carry her through the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good take. I think a lot of people are playing differently. I think that's great to see. There's some good, there's some bad that we've seen, but I think, Victoria, I'm not really sure, but I do think Sabrina's been really good. I mean, we haven't seen Trubel, so it's basically like a new game for us. Obviously, that's great. Let's see who else do you got, Scally?
Sierra might be finishing better than she did last time. I don't know if she's playing better necessarily. Her placement might go up.
She might be playing worse.
Yeah, it's not great.
I mean, I would say Shannon is taking a more active position to put herself into a better spot in the game. I think, last time she played and was ready to go, but I think now she's, taking a more active, spot in the
I think, Holly as well. I mean, I think she's playing us.
You can't go one question without mentioning Holly. Like, are you trolling us?
Who's your favorite player on the guys' tribe? Well, Holly is really.
I mean, when the tribes swap, Holly will be with the best player on that tribe, obviously. No, I do think she's
into the game next week. Holly might.
I do think that she's playing a more similar to what Scally just said about Shannon. I think that we saw a good social game from her last time, but I think maybe she was too reliant on her connection with Fluke and Fluke controlling her in the game last time, or controlling her position in the game, and that's why Victoria was able to make that move on her. So I think she's definitely taking things into her own hands a lot more this time.
If I'm Holly right now, I'm finding Charles's social media and blocking him, just as a precautionary measure.
The restraining order is being printed as we speak.
All right. Well, it is 11 o'clock. I think we have given this episode a very good recap. Obviously, if you came in late, certainly check out the top of the episode, which was very focused on the preview. I know I'm very glad we were able to get past that, move on from it, and now we enjoyed the episode, we talked about it, and we can look forward to next week and to whatever is going to happen then.
Can we give before we sign off, Gundor head predictions on what actually is going to happen next week?
Sure.
All right, go Charles.
I'm the host here. I'm prompting. Come on.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I realized.
Yeah. I mean, I think I stand by what I said. I think that we see. I think we see Fluke maybe, or somebody big.
You think Fluke comes back, hosts a challenge, and then says?
I don't necessarily think she hosts the challenge.
So what do you think happens? Because you're not making a prediction.
I think that she's in the mix somehow. I don't necessarily think she's gonna come in and announce a challenge or something like that. But I just don't know if I don't think she's gonna be a permanent player in the game. And I don't necessarily think it's Fluke. I just think what he's alluding to, my prediction is that it's something for an individual piece of the game, whether it be finding an idol or a challenge or an advantage where you get to do something or something like that, and rather than just someone permanently coming into the game. But I think everyone disagrees with me. So
that was the most vague prediction I've ever heard in my entire life.
I don't know exactly what that person's going to do.
Chris Thomas is making a player. He's going to take this a step up. Instead of creating text messages, he's going to create a custom player. Maybe he will just have it be Fluke, and he somehow convinced Austin to introduce us into the game to help his game along. And we're looking at one of the most legendary Survivor players of all time.
What are Fluke's stats? Like a social game, 78.
When you create
Beyonce 99.
My actual official prediction is that Survivor legend Marissa comes back.
Oh, here for it.
She had a sighting. People were asking me in the comments. There's a sighting of Marissa. I think the 35th minute or something in the background.
What? All right,
it's in the background. I have to rewatch. Is it Cynthia and Michelle that are talking?
Oh, I have to go back.
Oh, is that her?
Yeah, that was her in the background. She looks up and looks back.
Yeah, I was like, who is that in the background? Was that really her?
How did you not notice that right away, Matt?
You know what, Charles? Enough. I was focusing on the people in the game.
I would be here for Marissa comeback more than a Fluke comeback.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. Marissa would definitely be number 2 on the leaderboard.
We couldn't have gotten through the night without one horrible take from Charles.
I mean, to be fair,
I also just want to shout out Marissa before we. Although we don't have to end this, I could do another hour easily.
Fluke coming back would be good for Holly, so I'm here for that.
Okay.
Yeah, we got our quota.
I take back what I said. I'm sick of talking to Charles.
All right.
Danny's here. Danny.
All right.
Can you get Danny on air
I
here?
don't know who this Danny person is.
Yeah.
So
Keep your pants on, Charles.
So let me just wrap up and say, first of all, thank you guys all for coming on. It's always a blast to talk to the four of you, and we should definitely do it again. Great job.
Absolutely. Same time next week.
I might do it every week.
I'm ready.
Honestly, but really, thank you. Do you guys want to plug your Twitters real quick for people who don't know you or need to follow?
I'm under the assumption that everyone knows me, but you can follow me on Twitter at MattyFresh24. That's the only social media I use, so that's all I can plug. But before I stop talking, I just wanted to thank you again, Austin, for forcing me to watch this beautiful show. I am not exaggerating when I say it is the highlight of my week to watch a new Survivor Maryland All-Stars episode every Monday at 7.
Trubel wants another hour. I think we got to go another hour now. King Trubel wants it.
I'm an old man. I can't do it.
I am very happy and very grateful with all the hard work you put into this show, Austin. You're the best.
Seconded.
Thanks, guys.
You know, I have the worst Twitter handle in the history of the world, but you can just search my name, Charles Kurz, Kurz, and you'll find it on Twitter.
What about Big Chuck?
No, that's not my Twitter handle. That's my secret Hitler name. And my Xbox Live gamer tag, if you want to follow me on that.
Hard pass.
Charles is the first person to plug his Xbox Live.
I'll say on Twitter, I'm at Brian_Scally, and I will be making an Instagram account at Shubrina, so feel free to follow me there.
This guy can't stop pandering. I love it.
Ryan Kaiser gave you the first picture easily. So.
Yeah.
Twitter at Matt Ligori, and if anyone did not watch our Secret Hitler stream last night, make sure you check out Armstrong's Twitch, and we'll probably be doing some more of those. So those are a lot of fun. So
everyone follow Holly on Twitter as well.
I tried. Her account was private. So.
Everyone follow Holly on Twitter and Instagram. Instagram actually. Holly_pop. Yeah.
Ligori, how do you spell Ligori?
It doesn't matter because you're gonna probably write in the show notes and everything. It's not wrong no matter what.
Liguri.
It's Liguri.
Matt Liguri, and maybe one day Austin will get it right.
One day. The day you invite me on the power rankings is the day I'll get your name.
All
right. Well, thank you guys again on. Thank you to everybody who watched and followed in the comments. We had a great audience tonight and for the episode, and I'm excited to dive back into the comments. It's a scramble right now for me to make sure I get everything out in time. So if you don't hear from me, just know it really all is appreciated. And I mean, I see people on Twitter and different social media all the time saying, I think I might want to try Survivor Maryland. So it really does matter, and I really appreciate it. I also, just on a slightly serious note real quick, I know that there's some tangential relationship to the RHAB community, and I know that there was a loss in the RHAB community recently. So if anybody here was affected by that or knows Dominic, who passed away, then just want to say that we send our love from Survivor Maryland, and I know the whole community is mourning about it. So hopefully this night, if that was for you, was a nice reprieve from all that and a nice thing to enjoy. And I will look forward to seeing you all next week for the big reveal of whether I'm the biggest liar in history or the biggest troll in history, or who knows what options there are. But thank the four of you again, and thank you to everybody. And I will see you guys next Monday. All right.
Thank you,
Peace.
Austin.
Thank you.